Hey there, I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman, and today I'm going to give you a few tips for getting the most light out of an oil lamp. I'm going to run through these real quick because I know there have been a lot of storms in the country lately, and I just wanted to throw some tips out there for people who might be needing to use oil lamps and aren't overly familiar with them. So first piece of advice, and this is the biggest one, is put it in front of a mirror. That works with an oil lamp, of course. It also works if you're using a battery-operated lantern or any light source. Put it in front of a mirror, you get a lot more light. If you don't have a mirror, you can move around. You can use a pie plate or a cookie sheet, anything shiny, or just anything light colored. Remember, light colors reflect, dark colors absorb light. And so you want something that's going to reflect the light. In the 19th century, it used to be really common for any lamps that were mounted on the wall to have a mercury glass reflector behind them. It was like a mirror. These were all over the place, but they were very fragile, so most of them got broken over time, and they're hard to find now. But a lot of people still have mirrors, and most people have some sort of metal object. At the very least, you can use tin foil. Just cover something flat with tin foil, and there you go. Put it behind your lamp. You get a lot more light. The other next biggest tip is if you are using an oil lamp, make sure you keep it trimmed, because the wick, and now I'm talking about flat wick lamps. There are round wick lamps. If you have one of those, you probably already know how to use it. I'll get to that a little later. Flat wick lamps, they tend to build up char over time when they're used. So what happens is it just gets burnt up, the end of the wick, very little by little over time. If you keep the lamp nice and full of oil, it won't burn very quickly. Your wick will last for a very long time, but it does build up char. And you want to keep it nicely trimmed, just a nice cut across the top, and then lower the wick again to below the flame spreader, this bit at the top of the apparatus that screws into the base is the flame spreader. And it should be just a little below that, so that when you're lighting it, you then adjust it so that the flame is not so high it's going to crack the chimney, and also not so high that it's going to put soot on the chimney. Because that's the other thing. You also want to keep the chimneys nice and clean, because if they get covered with soot, then you're obviously not going to get as much light. And if you've seen movies where the lamp chimneys are covered with soot, that's just because the director thinks you're an idiot. And we're not idiots, but the directors seem to think we are. And they hope people won't realize that they're using electric lights inside the alleged oil lamps. And that's just their way of pretending that there aren't electric light bulbs in there. And they think we're too dumb to notice, but we're smarter than that. So again, keep the chimneys clean. Also, I'll put this away. The other thing you want to keep clean is this part of the base, or it's the part that holds the wick. And you can see there are all these tiny little holes. In an antique lamp, there will be more of those, and they'll be more effective. In a modern reproduction, there won't be as many, because they don't count on people actually using them very much. But those tend to get clogged with dust or little particles of soot, especially if you've had the lamp stored on a high shelf somewhere. So you just want to take a cloth or a stiff bristled brush and clean that out. Now, for a round wick lamp, you don't trim these, you just wipe them. So round wick lamps are great because they do give a lot more light than the flat wick ones. some people have seen these, not everyone has, but these don't get trimmed. You just take a cloth and wipe off the wick. These give a lot more light than the flat wick ones because it's a much greater surface area that's going to have a flame on it. And then the flame spreader goes back in. Last quick tip is that you want to keep the lamp at least 2/3 full of oil. You'll get a cleaner, brighter flame that way. Oh, and one more thing. Don't mix your fuels because most people use kerosene in lamps. It's nice and bright. With a very, very small lamp like this one, sometimes the kerosene burns too hot and you need paraffin oil, which burns at not such a high temperature. But you don't want to mix paraffin and kerosene because that'll get you into trouble. That's not a good idea. So, I hope these tips have been helpful. I've run through them really quick. Again, the biggest one is to put your light source, whatever it is, whether it's a candle, an oil lamp, a battery-operated lantern, put it in front of a reflective surface. Preferably a mirror, but a piece of aluminum foil or a pie tin or a cookie sheet or, if you've got a washboard, that'll do too. Anything that's going to reflect the light. So I hope this has been helpful, and hearts and prayers out to anyone who's been affected by the storms lately, and take care everybody. Bye-bye.